Okay, hello everyone. My name's Rach. I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic and addict, and we are on page 136. We're on the chapter 10, to employers. Um, I did do a little intro at the end of the last session, so it might be annoying if anybody's listening in, but it's definitely worth just going over just a little bit of information about who wrote this chapter. So Henry G. Parkhurst, Hank Parkhurst, I've got a picture of him here. You might recognise, you might have seen him knocking about AA history. And hi Peter, he was actually really, really important in early AA. He was one of the pioneers. Bill Wilson gets a lot of credit because he wrote the book with Dr. Bob, and with the other 100 or 82, however many it was in total. But Hank Parkhurst was really the salesman and the entrepreneur, the moneymaker, who helped raise the money to get the books published. And he had these big ideas about setting up this kind of AA hospital, and they had all these grand, big entrepreneurial ideas in early AA. But Hank actually drank again. So he didn't get a lot of credit, and they kind of tried to sweep it under the carpet a little bit because they're trying to show that AA does work. And if somebody, ends up drinking again, it's like, we don't want to show. This is why the traditions come into it, and we don't affiliate ourselves with AA when we're outside of the rooms. So what else did I want to say about Hank? He did drink again. He ended up with a resentment towards Bill Wilson, and he also, so he's going to talk about his big business because he was this big manager for Standard Oil, and he got fired from that place and ended up starting up his own thing called Honor Dealers. And he was kind of in rivalry with the old company, with the big company. And obviously we know that we can't live with resentment. So that could have potentially been why he picked up again this issue with the old company that he worked for, that he got fired from. And then the fact that he didn't get the credit that he wanted for his input into early AA. So he had a resentment towards Bill Wilson. He actually died, unfortunately, at just the age of 59. So some say it was booze, some say it was pills, but he wasn't able to stay sober. And in the first edition of the big book, the story "The Unbelievers," he wrote that story, and it was taken out. So this chapter was written by Hank Parkhurst, and some people say it's a little bit inconsistent, the flow of it. He was madly in love with Ruth Hock, the first secretary of AA, but he was still married as well. So there's another reason, dishonesty that might have crept in. And Paige, because I do Paige's book studies, and she's a massive historian, and she said that they went to this New York jazz writing festival thing, and that's why his writing style may have been a little bit all over the place. But I'm not a writer, so let's read it together and we'll work it out as we go along. So chapter 10, to employers. Among many employers nowadays, we think of one member who has spent much of his life in the world of big business. He has hired and fired hundreds of men. He knows the alcoholic as the employer sees him. His present views ought to prove exceptionally useful to businessmen everywhere, but let him tell you. So if you think about this chapter, and we've gone over the family afterwards. So just to state the obvious, if you like, but I always like to read the step that we're on that aligns to the literature. So we'll just go back to page 60. and read step 12 together. It says, having had a spiritual awakening, as the result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So we had the chapter working with others. And actually, if we want to start off the chapter, which is so powerful, so if you want to start off the beginning of step 12, those chapters that tell us how to work our 12th step, it says practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. So we've gone through working with others. We've gone through the to the family afterwards, and to wives and the family afterwards. And now we're into employers. And if you think about it, it's like, how many people do we affect? How many people are employed and an alcoholic? we've all had jobs, or are the employers. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it's so broad. This is actually really helpful for anybody, especially if you are an employer, because it's inevitable that you're gonna work with people, probably, maybe, that has some kind of issue, whether it be whatever it may be. Obviously, in our case, it's alcoholism. So just, and I always, oh, I hope you can hear me okay. It says my internet is gone squiffy. On the forward to the first edition, it says, we think this account of our experiences will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. So that's just the end of the first paragraph on the forward to the first edition. So it kind of reminds me that this thing is so broad. There's so much help that can be given, not just to the alcoholic, but everybody that we impact, our employers, our families, our partners, our children, or everyone. So here we go, back onto page 136. I was at one time assistant manager of a corporation department employing 6,600 men. So huge, right? Massive organization. One day, my secretary came in saying that Mr. B insisted on speaking with me. And again, that first little line of this chapter, him, Hank Parker saying this, is like, this is his experience of working with alcoholics. This is his lived experience. So one day, my secretary came in saying that Mr. B insisted on speaking with me. I told her to say that I was not interested. I had several times, but he had one more chance. Not long afterward, he had called me from Hartford on 2 successive days, so drunk he could hardly speak. Oh, Lynn, hello, Lynn. 136, 2 employers. So that's really cringeworthy. Oh, hi, Elle. I didn't see you there. Hello, everyone who's just joined, Catherine. That's cringeworthy, isn't it? Have you ever done anything like that? Like called your boss so drunk you could hardly speak? Horrific. This reminded me of a time that I walked into my friend's mum's bedroom 10 times in the middle of the night. She kept on saying, "What are you doing, you crazy person? Get out of my bedroom." And I kept on forgetting that I'd gone in, and I carried on knocking, going, "Can I just?" And it was like the middle of the night. It's so bad. Anyway, I told him he was through, finally and forever. So again, this misunderstanding about alcoholism, this powerlessness, this step one, powerlessness, this person can't not drink. My secretary returned to say that it was not Mr. B on the phone. It was Mr. B's brother, and he wished to give me a message. I still expected a plea for clemency. Why have I not? Clemency, pleading, begging. I haven't actually got the definition here, but somebody might have it and put it in the chat. A plea, it's a plea, isn't it? Uh, Forgiveness, yeah. But these words came through the receiver. I just wanted to tell you that Paul jumped from a hotel window in Hartford last Saturday. He left us a note saying you were the best boss he ever had and that you were not to blame in any way. So in my book, in the margin, I've put death. Okay, this is a very ominous, this is a beginning, this is a sad reality of this illness. These three situations that we're going to talk about take me back to page 30, where it says many pursue it to the gates of insanity and death. So if you did want to do a little cross-reference. So another time, as I opened a letter which lay on my desk, a newspaper clipping fell out. It was the obituary of one of the best salesmen I ever had. After 2 weeks of drinking, he had placed his toe on the trigger of a loaded shotgun. The barrel was in his mouth. I had discharged him for drinking 6 weeks before. So again, in the margin, I've put death. And I've also put suicide. Still another experience. A woman's voice came faintly over long distance from Virginia. She wanted to know if her husband's company insurance was still in force. 4 days before, he had hanged himself in his woodshed. I had been obliged to discharge him for drinking, though he was brilliant, alert, and one of the best organizers I have ever known. So again, in the margin, I've put death. These are facts. This is Hank Parkhurst's lived experience. He is the manager or assistant manager of this massive company, and he has physically, literally known 3 people to kill themselves in different ways. Notice one jumps out the window, one hangs himself, one puts. Isn't that a real, like, whoa, with the insanity? This illness takes us to the gates of it because it's unmanageable, it's unbearable. And he's highlighting how brilliant these people were. So it's like he's doing this qualification of like, I'm a professional employer. I've worked with lots of different people, many who have suffered with alcoholism, and now he's like doing this real, like, whoa, like slash you in the face with 3 suicides at the beginning of the chapter. And so he's going to carry on. Here were 3 exceptional men lost to this world because I did not understand alcoholism as I do now. It's quite sad, isn't it? It's like, and then he says, what irony, I became an alcoholic myself. And but for the intervention of an understanding person, I might have followed in their footsteps. My downfall cost the business community unknown thousands of dollars, for it takes real money to train a man for an executive position. I'm just trying to think, Hank Parkhurst, somebody in here is going to know the connection. Was it Bill Wilson? I can't remember in what order. I can't remember in what order he was brought into the mix. And somebody might know or be able to share back at the end. But this understanding person. And this is, we're in step 12, right? So somebody out there, we never know what kind of impact we're going to have. There's the one road which takes me to the gates of insanity and death. And there's another road, which is like a 12-step call, just one call that identifies to a meeting, or that one, big book being sent out, or whatever. So he's going to start appealing to the financial aspects of this. And it is a fact, right? My downfall cost the business community unknown thousands of dollars, for it takes real money to train a man for an executive position. This kind of waste goes on unabated. So unabated means without any reduction in intensity or strength. Is that what I put? Yeah. So not just people who have been trained up, but imagine if we collated the amount of hours that we've been off sick, the amount of hours that we've jointly not shown up and had to have somebody else cover us through illness, or we think the business fabric is shot through with a situation which might be helped by better understanding all around. So again, this education around alcoholism, and that's why it's so important, isn't it, that we have H&I, hospitals and institutions, and PI, public information, because that's how, and 12-step, 12-step calls and all of this, sharing the message, spreading the message. Nearly every modern employer feels a moral responsibility for the well-being of his help, and he tries to meet these responsibilities. It is when somebody starts a company, well, actually, I can't, that's an opinion, that's an assumption, but I'm guessing when an employer starts a business, they're going to want it to be successful. And for it to be successful, they're going to want good people, and they're going to want people who can, hi Tammy, welcome, we're on page 137. They're going to want people who are happy and effective, and who can build their baby, who can build their business, and have that moral responsibility. Hopefully, good employers. That he has not always done so for the alcoholic is easily understood. To him, the alcoholic has often seemed a fool of the first magnitude. And there's that bit in I can't actually remember what page number it's on, but it might be in There Is a Solution, where it talks about people who don't understand, people who literally are just like, why can't you, shouldn't you be able to drink, shouldn't you be able to give up? Those people who just don't understand alcoholism are our own fellows, our own family. Hi Rob, hi Sky, good to see you. We're on page 137. So because of the employee's special ability, or of his own strong personal attachment to him, the employer has sometimes kept a man at work long beyond a reasonable period. I mean, can you relate to being the employee who has just scraped by the skin of your teeth, and just thinking, wow, I'm just getting by, I'm kind of like floating, paddling, trying to keep my head above water. And maybe that employee knows that we're brilliant when we're on form, but I'm powerless, and I'm always going to have these horrific consequences, that it's going to get worse, right? Some employers have tried every known remedy. In only a few instances has there been a lack of patience and tolerance. And we who have imposed on the best of employers can scarcely blame them if they have been short with us. So again, just thinking about the manipulation, this almost makes me feel a little bit bad about those times that I've played on somebody's heartstrings, manipulating the situation, making things up, lying. On page 52, it talks about, can we make a living? And it's like, yeah, maybe some people can make a living, But what kind of living? If I'm in untreated alcoholism, I'm not going to be showing up as my best self. There's no way I can. And God doesn't want that for us, right? And it's smashing for our self-esteem to just, be that kind of employee. So here, for instance, is a typical example. An officer of one of the largest banking institutions in America knows I no longer drink. One day, he told me about an executive of the same bank who, from his description, was undoubtedly alcoholic. This seemed to me like an opportunity to be helpful. There's that word. I always squiggly underline it. I always make it pop. It's the running thread through the whole book. If you want to like really break down that word, helpful is like full of help. I come from this like broken, empty, useless place into a place of being helpful. And this is Hank Parkhurst going, oh my God, I'm sober. And he's getting an opportunity to share his message with someone. And he's trying to be selfless because he knows how it feels. So he said, so I spent 2 hours talking about alcoholism, the malady, and described the symptoms and the results as well as I could. And I was having a conversation with someone yesterday who was like, I just don't really know what to say sometimes to newcomers. I'm a bit scared, like, what if I get it wrong? And I always just say, we're going to get it wrong. We're just sharing our experience. Sometimes it's going to land with people, and sometimes it's not going to land. But the more I can just do my best, it says we try this step 12 says we tried to carry this message. So sometimes I can, I could take the evangelist approach or the shove the book in somebody's face approach. I've done that many a time. It doesn't really work unless you get that enthusiastic consent. Yeah, so bless him. I love thinking about Hank Parkhurst going, oh my God, I've got this opportunity to be helpful, and I'm going to go and present these symptoms. The symptoms are the allergy and the obsession of the mind, the allergy of the body, the spiritual malady. And he's doing his best. And then his comment was, this is the big banking dude, very interesting, but I'm sure this man is done drinking. He has just returned from 3 months leave of absence and has taken a cure, looks fine, and to clinch the matter, the board of directors told him this was his last chance. And you just, even as I read it, I just feel that kind of like, you don't get it. You don't get this powerlessness. It doesn't matter about the board of directors saying it's his last chance, and the fact that he's back on, he looks fine. We were just talking in yesterday's book study about it's easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. And the person on the book study said, actually, it is easy. And I was thinking about it afterwards, and I was thinking, people wouldn't relapse if it wasn't easy to let up on the spiritual program of action. So this is the cunning, baffling, powerful bit of my illness, is that I can have a break and feel better and go, right, okay, I'm going to get back to work, I'm going to do it. But if I'm an alcoholic, I need a spiritual solution. And most people don't understand that. And sometimes it can be quite frustrating to try and get that message over. But then it's like, I have to remember that I find it confusing, and I'm the alcoholic with the condition. I confuse myself. So if alcoholics find it hard to understand the fatality of the illness, how do we expect non-alcoholics to understand it fully? So this is why the more practice I can get at kind of sharing this message, maybe the better I'll get at landing. So the only answer I could make was that if the man followed the usual pattern, so the doctor's opinion tells us that this cycle, let me just go back to it so I don't misquote it. And it's on page XXIX, so 29 Roman numerals. It's that first paragraph, and it's where Dr. Silkworth explains the cycle after they have succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the obsession of the mind, and the phenomenon of craving develops, the allergy of the body. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful, spiritual malady, with a firm resolution not to drink again. Then they're obviously more spiritual malady. This is repeated over and over. And unless the person can experience an entire psychic change, there is very little hope of his recovery. So that's the usual pattern. That's the inevitability, right? And it says, he would go on a bigger bust than ever. I felt this was inevitable. I've squiggly underlined inevitable. This is the powerlessness of the illness. I felt this was inevitable and wondered if the bank was doing the man this. Why not bring him into contact with some of our alcoholic crowd? That identification, that unity, that understanding that we get when we speak this language of the heart. He might have a chance. I pointed out that I had had nothing to drink whatever for 3 years, and in the face of difficulties that would have made 9 out of 10 men drink their heads off. Why not at least afford him an opportunity to hear my story? And in my book, I've put my experience. And that's, again, just relating back to, how do I get to keep this thing, this precious gift? I have to give it away. It tells me throughout the book, intensive work with another alcoholic was imperative. So, oh no, said my friend, this chap is either through with liquor or he is minus a job. If he has your willpower and guts, he will make the grade. Oh, so upsetting. It's like, okay, we haven't, I wanted to throw up my hands in discouragement, for I saw that I had failed to help my banker friend understand. He simply could not believe that his brother executive suffered from a serious illness. There was nothing to do but wait. Oh, and it just makes me think that bit, just that a couple of sentences before, if he has your willpower and guts. The doctor's opinion also says that he doesn't believe that it's about mental control. This is not about willpower. This is, we are completely powerless. So presently, the man did slip. We're just on page 139 for anyone who's just joined. Presently, the man did slip and was fired. It just told us, didn't it, that it was inevitable. This was going to happen. Following his discharge, we contacted him. And sometimes I struggle to do this because I do speak to a lot of newcomers. And I always, whenever I speak to a newcomer, what I've started to do now is I put whatever fellowship I'm in, so AA or CA, and then I put their name and I put where I met them. So if it's like an online meeting, like Late Night London would be LNL, and then I put newcomer. And it helps me. So basically, if ever I need to resolutely turn my thoughts to someone I can help, I can just put in my phone newcomer, and I've got a whole host of numbers that I can reach out to. I do struggle to keep up with them, but I love this direction here of we contacted him after his discharge. He knew what was going to happen, and again, this is like this whole 12-step thing. Off the top of my head, my brain gets a bit full. I can't think of all the places where it says reach out and take action. I mean, I know there's page 96, actually. I've just thought of one of them. Let me just go there. I jump around a little bit. It's at the top of the page, 96, it says, do not be discouraged if your prospect does not respond at once. Search out another alcoholic. And there's some other places, if anyone remembers, you might be able to, I can't read the chat, I don't know if people are putting stuff in, but I love it in the book where it tells me to take action and reach out, because there are people out there dying, you know, every day, right? And we have this solution, and it's such a gift to be able to give it away. And I get freedom when I give it away as well. So I love that direction. Without much ado, he accepted the principles and procedure that had helped us. He is undoubtedly on the road to recovery. To me, this incident illustrates lack of understanding as to what really ails the alcoholic, and lack of knowledge as to what part employers might profitably take in salvaging their sick employees. So he is like taking a slightly different tack at the moment as an employer. He kind of started off the chapter saying, you know, this is killer. Like, my best employees are dying. Like, they're physically, literally hanging, shooting, and jumping out of windows. Like, they're literally, my best employees are dying. But then now he's kind of taking how is this going to be profitable for your business? Whatever our thoughts are around that, it's like he is trying to be helpful in his own way, because this is people's lives that are, you know, we have you know, the employers, whether you work or not, you know, there are jobs out. Not everyone has a job, but maybe I'm messing my words up. There's so many people out there who could be helped, who are workers and employers with this illness, if they are aware, right, of what we're faced with and the solution. So if you desire to help, it might be well to disregard your own drinking or lack of it. Whether you are a hard drinker, a moderate drinker, or a teetotaler, you may have some pretty strong opinions, perhaps prejudices. So this is appealing, you know, to the employer who is not the alcoholic, but we do have like a reference guide back on page 21 about, you know, the moderate drinker, the hard drinker, and the real alcoholic. And again, this reminds me of having to lay aside everything I think I know. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for putting that in there. Laying aside everything I think I know, because my life experience does not necessarily mean that this is other people's. And obviously, if I'm not an alcoholic, I'm not going to understand. So those who drink moderately may be more annoyed with an alcoholic than a total abstainer would be. Drinking occasionally and understanding your own, as far as the alcoholic is concerned, are not always so. As a moderate drinker, you can take your liquor or leave it alone. They're completely non-alcoholic, right? Whenever you want to, you control your drinking. Of an evening, you can go on a mild bender. I love that, mild bender. Doesn't come into our kind of vocab, right? Mild. What is mild? We just know bender. Get up in the morning, shake your head, and go to business. To you, liquor is no real problem. You cannot see why it should be to anyone else. save the spineless and the stupid. So again, this kind of judgment, this assumption that alcoholics are weak. I don't know about you guys, but it was such a relief to find out, you know, and Dr. Silkworth talks about it, that I can have incredibly strong willpower and I can be sensible in all other areas of my life. But when it comes to alcohol or mind altering substances, I'm like a woman possessed, you know, self-sabotage to the max, powerlessness. So when dealing with an alcoholic, there may be a natural annoyance that a man can be so weak, stupid, and irresponsible. Again, sort of thinking about that lack of understanding, that frustration that our employers, our husbands, wives, families, children, everybody around the alcoholic is so frustrated with this lack of power around drinking. Even when you understand the malady better, you may feel this feeling rising. So it's quite reassuring. It's telling the employer, you know, again, there's another thread through this book about patience. This is an illness, right? I can't help the fact that I'm powerless and I'm going to make really terrible decisions. So this is trying to be helpful. A look at the alcoholic in your organization is many times illuminating. Is he not usually brilliant, fast thinking, imaginative, and likable? And it reminds me of that bit, and I'm pretty sure actually it is on page 21, but just give me a sec, where it talks about, yeah, it is on page 21, and it says he often possesses special abilities. It's just at the bottom of the page. Skills and aptitudes, and has a promising career ahead of him. He uses his gifts to build up a bright outlook for his family and for himself, and then pulls the structure down on his head by a senseless series of sprees. So identifiable, it's so relatable, and that's why it's such a gift, isn't it, and a pleasure and privilege to be in these fellowships and be around people with these special aptitudes and skills and abilities, but they're clean and sober, because we're still really cool, we're still really amazing, but we just don't drink and use anymore, so we can have all of the fun in different ways. So is he not usually brilliant, fast thinking, imaginative, and likable? And it's so sad actually to just think about the opportunities that have been missed, that have been lost, the lives that didn't make it, the skill, the talent that has been drained and sucked out of people through alcoholism and addiction. Yeah, the gifts that we've been given, and then that kind of blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation, waking up with that terror, bewilderment, frustration, and despair. And that's not how God wanted us to live, right? And so now in here to try and help the employers as well. Oh, have I skipped a page? Yeah. So when sober, does he not work hard and have a knack for getting things, did not drink? Would he be worth retaining? Should he have the same consideration as other ailing employees? So this bit, it kind of I haven't done a little cross reference here, but it kind of makes me think of page 18, where it's, you know, it's relating our alcoholism with cancer. And it's saying, so on page 18, first paragraph, it says, an illness of this sort, and we have come to believe it is an illness, involves those about us in a way no other human sickness can. If a person has cancer, all are sorry for him and no one is angry or hurt. But not so with the alcoholic illness, for with it there goes annihilation of all things worthwhile in life. It engulfs all whose lives who touch the sufferers. It brings misunderstanding, fierce resentment, financial insecurity, disgusted friends and employers, warped lives of blameless children, sad wives and parents. Anyone can increase the list. So I was just thinking about, if I had cancer and I showed up to work and I was getting chemo and I was like, I feel really ill today. I feel really sick. This treatment, it would be okay, wouldn't it? But obviously my alcoholism, I feel sick because I've been drinking until 3 a.m. I stink of alcohol. I haven't slept long enough, so it's a good question. If it wasn't alcohol, if it was a different illness, would they be worth saving? I think that's a really good question. If your decision is yes, whether the reason be humanitarian or business or both, then the following suggestions may be helpful. So, pulling on the heartstrings or pulling on the finance strings, Hank Parkhurst is saying, let's have a look at, because I'm now the alcoholic. I was the employer and now I'm the employee who's the alcoholic. So can you discard the feeling that you are dealing only with habit, with stubbornness, or a weak will? If this presents difficulty, rereading chapters 2 and 3, where the alcoholic sickness is discussed at length, might be worthwhile. So just as a reminder, chapter 2 and 3 is there is a solution, and more about alcoholism. And so we've had the doctor's opinion, we've had Bill's story, and then we've got there is a solution and more about alcoholism. And in there is a solution, we do get what the solution is. We have had these revolutionary spiritual experience. We've had these spiritual experiences which have revolutionized our whole attitude. And these spiritual tools have been laid at our feet. But that chapter actually just really still drums home alcoholism, and we're still in step 1 around that. We're still really trying to get that identification of what am I faced with in there is a solution. And more about alcoholism is like, okay, we've told you what the doctor thinks. The doctor's opinion is that this program works. Bill's story shows us the decline of his experience and then how he got well. We've got there is a solution, which does that killer case of alcoholism. And then more about alcoholism shows us the three stories which highlight the thing that goes before the relapse. So the crux of the problem being that in the mind. So we've got somebody who drinks on a resentment. We've got somebody who drinks not a cloud on the horizon. We've got the carpet slippers dude who thinks he's immune because he hasn't had a drink for 25 years. And then the jaywalker story. So they're really trying to educate people about what we're faced with. That's how much of the literature is about, like, hey, this is, well, the whole book is about it, isn't it? But that's predominantly. So it might be worth reading chapters 2 and 3, where the alcoholic sickness is discussed at length, might be worthwhile. You as a businessman want to know the necessities before considering the results. If you concede that your employee is ill, and I like, again, they've said the alcoholic sickness, and then they've said ill, So they're constantly telling us, I think I always get these numbers mixed up. It refers to alcoholism being an illness or a sickness. Is it 14 or 16 times in the big book? One of those, I can't remember. And it only refers to it being a disease once. I always shout about this, and it's on page 64, where it's talking about resentment. And I think that's so brilliant. It's so clever that the only time alcoholism is described as a disease is in the resentment bit, which is cool, because it is like an infection, a disease. But other than that, it's like, this is a sickness, this is an illness. Do we understand, what we're faced with? So can he be forgiven for what he has done in the past? These are all really good questions, right, to ask the employer. Let's get down to it. If you're willing to save this person's career as an employee, let's get to let's get to it. Can they be forgiven for what he has done in the past? Can his past absurdities be forgotten? Can it be, and let's think about those absurdities. Calling your boss in the middle of the night when you can hardly speak. I mean, I couldn't even put my head to the absurdities, the craziness, the chaos, the drama, the madness. And then the stories. Imagine all the stories that we have told collectively that don't even make sense. Can you imagine when you've told one lie and then you can't remember, and then it's just like, whoa, the unmanageability of the alcoholic employee. Wow. And the patience of some employers, and the baffledness of the employers. Like, you're so good on the one hand, but then you're so crazy on the other. It's no wonder they're confused, right? Can it be appreciated that he has been a victim of crooked thinking, directly caused by the action of alcohol on his brain? I mean, not to mention, I'm not obviously a scientist, but the brain cells that we kill, and the memories, the blackouts, the oblivion, but not just that, like I just explained, the craziness of what we do is just, it is absurd, isn't it? I well remember the shock I received when a prominent doctor in Chicago told me of cases where pressure of the spinal fluid actually ruptured the brain. So I always check in with certain information. So my lovely friend who runs a book study, he said that this guy is Dr. Cowles. I know Rob's smiling. Rob might have a slide on him. Dr. Cowles, and apparently he was completely discredited. He was completely bonkers, and this wasn't true. And what he was trying to explain was a stroke, and there isn't such thing as this spinal fluid rupturing the brain. But there wasn't a lot of information back then. We didn't have as much information. So no wonder I'm strange in outright mental defectives. Who can relate to that? Outright mental defectives. Whew. Who wouldn't be with such a fevered brain? Normal drinkers are not so affected, nor can they understand the aberrations of the alcoholic. I don't even have, Rob, can you put an definition, please? Because for some reason I don't have it in this book. Let me just wait for that to come up. Sorry.
So, sorry, which word did you want?
Aberrations. It's on 140. If someone has it, aberrations. Just wait for that to come up so I can say it out loud. Let me see. Delusion. Lynn said delusion, aberrations.
Abnormal actions, deviations from the proper or expected course.
Ah, thank you. Thank you so much. I need to get that in my book. Thank you guys, thank you team, appreciate that. Your man has probably been trying to conceal a number of scrapes, perhaps pretty messy ones. Oh my gosh, I'm going to put a question mark after that. Who can relate to that awful, horrendous shame and embarrassment of doing something related to work and then trying to conceal it? The anxiety. Oh, oh. I'm thinking of this one time. I'm sorry, I hope you don't mind me sharing it. I ended up getting absolutely hammered with the boss's son. We all piled back to their house, and I ended up, I don't know how, but I ended up leaving my bra at the boss's son's house. And it was so embarrassing. I was just like, please, can you bring in my bra? I was just like, oh no, it was awful. Oh, blackouts are just awful. They may be disgusting. You may be at a loss to understand how such a seemingly above board chap could be so involved. But these scrapes can generally be charged, no matter how bad, to the abnormal action of alcohol on his mind. When drinking or getting over about, an alcoholic, sometimes the model of honesty when normal will do incredible things. You know, that again, just that feeling of panic and worry that you have to come up with a lie and have to make it believable, and then just it is so unmanageable. It's just so unmanageable. Afterward, his revulsion will be terrible. Nearly always, these antics indicate nothing more than temporary conditions. This is not to say that all alcoholics are honest and upright when not drinking. So they always have to put in that little caveat, you know, with to wives, they put the little caveat in to say, don't let somebody beat you over the head with this part of the program. You're going to learn who is really serious about their sobriety and wanting to get well. When we've got the spiritual tools laid at our feet, it's up to us to pick them up, right? So, of course, that isn't so. And such people often may impose on you, seeing your attempt to understand and help. Some men will try to take advantage of your kindness. If you are sure your man does not want to stop, he may as well be discharged. The sooner, the better. You are not doing him a favor by keeping him on. Firing such an individual may prove to be a blessing to him. It may be just the jolt he needs. I know in my own particular case that nothing my company could have done would have stopped me. For so long as I was able to hold my position, I could not possibly realize how serious my situation was. And that's like, yeah, it's so true, isn't it? But just going back to the beginning of the chapter, he's also talking about these people that he fired. He hired and fired many people, and he discharged those 3 men, and they all ended up killing themselves. Now, that's not his responsibility, but yeah, this is why I guess it goes back to the power and the importance of spreading this message, carrying this message that there is a solution and that people can get well if they want to. Had they fired me first, and had they taken these steps to see that I was presented with the solution contained in this book, I might have returned to them 6 months later a well man. But there are many men who want to stop, and with them you can go far. Your understanding treatment of their cases will pay dividends. So again, he's sort of tapping on the financial strings there. Perhaps you have such a man in mind. He wants to quit drinking and you want to help him, even if it be only a matter of good business. You now know more about alcoholism. You can see that he is mentally and physically sick. I might just squiggly underline again the mentally and physically, because it's just a running thread throughout the whole book, isn't it? Mind and body, mind and body, mind and body. You are willing to overlook his past performances. Suppose an approach is made something like this. I'll just finish this bit and then we'll state that you know about his drinking and that it must stop. You might say that you appreciate his abilities, would like to keep him, but cannot if he continues to drink. A firm attitude at this point has helped many of us. I really like this direct approach as well. I've been speaking to quite a few people about Al-Anon and, you know, just sometimes the awkwardness of people not knowing how to approach alcoholism and like pussyfooting around things at times and not wanting to offend. And this is very, very directional, isn't it? It's very instructive. It's like, I know about your drinking. When they were talking about Dr. Bob making his amends, and everyone knows anyway. I think that people don't know, but they actually do. And again, if I've got this really helpful, non-judgmental approach, people are going to feel that, right? I'll just maybe do this next paragraph. He can be assured that you do not intend to lecture. Do you know what? I'm not going to do this paragraph because my time is up and it's going to go on a little bit more. So I'll just put my marker here and we will pick up on this next week. So thank you so much for being here and for listening. I'm just going to stop the recording